Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hey, and welcome to Boggy Talk. Thanks for joining us for another week of hot takes, questions, and games. That's our new slogan, right?
Hot takes, questions, and games.
That's right. How you doing, James Ross?
Do I have to give you a hot take, a question?
Yeah, hot take.
About how I'm doing?
How you doing? What's your
good.
hot take?
I'm good, man. It's cooling off.
Yes, praise Jesus. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, this area, this time of year is a little sliver of heaven, minus potential hurricanes.
Yeah, that part kind of.
But the weather,
is going to
the
happen
humidity
in heaven,
living, it's amazing. Love it. Yes.
Yeah. It's been good. It is. I'm feeling like we've discussed before that like December and May are crazy, but I'm actually starting to feel like there's more months that are creeping into that crazy level. Yeah. Just with kids' activities and all that stuff and church. I mean, but it's so good. Like I'm really privileged to be a part of the things I'm a part of, you know? So, but also, it gets a little tiring. So
yeah,
how
there's
you doing,
times
man?
I'm about the same, it's like, yeah, it's going to slow. No, it's not. It's going to slow. No, it's not. But, ultimately we're in charge of our calendars for the most part. And so it's like, we decide what is getting on there. So we're trying to intentionally carve out time to rest. And
Except for I keep texting you and say, hey, can you do this?
Do
Can you
this.
join me for this?
It's all good though. It really is. It is good. Like you said, kids sports, church stuff. It is. It's just great to be where we are, like recognizing God's placed us where we are because He's in control and He wants us to serve Him where we are. So that's what we're trying to do.
Good, man.
So
got
hey,
serious and real already.
I'm just feeling it today. So hey, we're gonna dive in. Really following up the past 2 weeks of teaching in this series we are doing. It is finished, but it's not over. In the Gospel of Mark, and the first week really talking about this beautiful story of a woman who lavishes this expensive oil on Jesus's feet and how it was viewed as wasteful, but it was worshipful. And then this past week, as you talked about
another beautiful story.
Judas's betrayal.
Yeah.
Not as beautiful.
Not as beautiful, but God in it is beautiful.
The roots are there. So really on the heels of those 2 weeks, talking this morning, it's actually afternoon we're recording this, but my mind's on Sunday morning. We're talking today really about money and materialism.
Because you see so many people on Sunday morning have a hard time not saying like good morning to people. Like if you see them at a completely different time.
The worst is if we're here for Sunday night stuff or prayer nights. I'm like, hey, morning. Oh wait, it's 5 o'clock.
5 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
People do that to me all the time. I'm like, they associate me with 1 hour of their week.
That's right.
Unless you're a Boggy Talk listener.
I'm much more than that.
And then we are more than that.
That's right. We are
you were saying
BFFs. So
that
anyway,
has nothing to do with that.
So we're talking about materialism. And money. And no one has opinions about this. And we've talked about this a few times, but really on the heels of the past 2 weeks of teaching, how do we as Christians live here and now with an eternal perspective when it comes to our money? Because it's the title of our series. It is finished, but it is not over. It's really how do we live with this mentality of we know eternity is real and true. We are here right now living. What do we do and how do we live? So
I'm still a little salty that you didn't let us name the series. It is finished, but it ain't over.
But it ain't. I figured we would probably get a lot of text, but it ain't.
But it ain't.
But it ain't.
I mean, our Boggy people would be totally fine with that.
We can make a song. We can write.
It's all you Yankees moving to Niceville. You make
right.
us, uppity here.
Oh man, we got to use proper English.
That's right.
Got to be right.
Is ain't in the dictionary? I think it is.
I think it is now.
Yeah.
So
I
guess it's proper. It ain't. It is. It ain't.
Yeah, look, we just deconstruct the English language. Anyway,
flipping over.
Yeah,
tables.
I mean, obviously we have talked, and you can go back and listen about the whole idea of stewardship before on Boggy Talk and in sermons. So I don't know that we want to belabor that point, but I think really a couple weeks ago the text really dealt, and really both weeks dealt with the real issue of Judas and the fact that he had greed in his heart, and ultimately for Judas that meant he stopped following Jesus. And I think that throughout the scriptures, we do see like our view of money is a heart issue. And I think we try to soften that, and I think a lot of pastors are softening that to keep people listening because they know like that's a hard place to start. But I mean, it's a truth. Jesus himself said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I mean, he's speaking very clearly to what people do with their money.
Yeah, and it's important what we do to our money because it's revealing. You can follow the trail of how we spend our money, and you can really tell where our priorities are.
Yeah.
And I think, I was just reading. You talked about greed, and in preparation for our life group, we're tracking with the Bible reading plan, and 2 Peter. Chapter 2, the whole of chapter 2 is about these false teachers. And he identifies two key areas that false teachers they're wrong, but the sinful heart. He talks about their sensuality and their greed. And it's easy to be like, yeah, those greedy teachers who just want more money. But really, it's greedy Christians who want more money as well. And
because people are buying into prosperity teaching even then.
Yes, even then. So this prosperity teaching is not just a Western American 20th, 21st century thing. It's been an issue since, Peter was there since the zeros,
Right.
And I think it is so telling because ultimately, the Bible says, we can't serve God and money. We can't have two masters. There's so much scripture about money. And I think, it is Jesus himself talks about money a good bit. And it really is telling because what else has the potential to be a false god,
right?
Like money,
yeah.
Because money offers a lot of false security. It basically, I think, money has the ability, like other things do, but money in a very unique way has the ability for Christians and for non-Christians, but for Christians specifically, to take our eyes off of what is eternal and put it on what is temporary.
And so, this is why when we talk about disciplines or rhythms of the Christian community, they're important. Corporate worship is important because, obviously all these things prescribed for us in the Bible, but what the Bible is showing us and what we see is that it aligns our heart when we gather together for corporate worship. So really, even if our life is frantic and busy, the answer is not pulling away from corporate worship. It's regularly being a part of it. And so giving sacrificially or tithing, if you want to use that phrase, is another thing that, what we're talking about really is very theoretical. And when we make this a part of our practices, our rhythms, tithing, giving regularly to the church, it is putting our heart in line with where we say we want it to be. So like I said a couple of weeks ago, giving, being a good steward and being a worshiper is much more than giving regularly, sacrificially to the church, but it is not less than that.
Right.
And I do think that you're able to keep this argument theoretical and not do that. And people's objection to doing that is because that's so trackable and so clear in their own mind, right? Like you could say, I'm not really greedy, but do you do this thing? Why don't you do this thing? When we begin to talk about why you don't do this thing, out of the abundance heart the mouth speaks, I begin to hear materialism, greed, those kind of things.
Absolutely. So Pastor, I got a question for you.
Oh man.
Oh, so
Another one of those Yankees that don't say
right.
I guess that's what that voice is.
I'm not as good at voices as Lewis Miller, our regent. He just does great voices. He preached here a few months ago, and I'm always like, how many voices is he going to do? So
I just love that your usual antagonistic voice is that New Jersey girl voice.
Because I don't know.
Okay. You don't know anyone who talks like that?
I can't really talk.
Right?
But I don't want to sound like an old lady or something. I don't know. Anyway, so if someone was to come and say, I give to this and I give to that. So I give. Why should I give to the local church? Why are you always asking me to give to church?
Yeah. Because
aren't you benefiting from this, Pastor?
Yeah, because Jesus affirmed the Old Testament. And so the practice of the Old Testament is something we look at and say, what does that mean for the New Testament? And then the, Apostle Paul and other, New Testament writers showed it being practiced through sacrificial, regular giving to the local church. And so because that's how, the scriptures are authority. So if that's your authority, I would say, that's what you're called to do. And there was a high degree of accountability in the Bible days, in the early church days. So like today, you're probably not even going to be held accountable to that. But that's just it. And really what I have said to many people is show me any evidence that it's otherwise.
Yeah.
and there is none. Like, so now the burden of proof is on you there. Now I'll say this, I get the critiques of how the American church spends money. I mean, there is validity in that. And even in our church, who I think does not spend in excess on very many things. I mean, you might be able to make a point that we do on some things. I don't know. But there's still a tension there because it just costs so much to operate. And so that's a tension we cannot just fully let go into saying, well, we're going to do whatever it takes to keep the machine going. I think that, and like I said, the past couple of weeks, it's both and it's both. We're giving to God to fuel the mission of the church, to take care of those who are called to serve the church and the responsibilities of the church and all those things. And we're meeting the needs around us. It is both and.
Right. I think it goes back to like, this is a collective thing. And God calls us to obedience, but also we get to do this. And God has chosen the church to be the vehicle that he takes the gospel to the nations, to the world. And that takes resources. And so that is another reason. And I ask that because I think that's something people think a lot of times. It's like, why do I have to give the church? Or they just want more money. And it's like, well, so going back to the accountability thing, I think, we as a church really want to be transparent in all of finances and how we spend things. And so you can, see those reports and, you have access to all that as a church member. But there is this aspect of like, we are called to be stewards. And as church leaders, we are called to steward this well and to really to just say, Lord, none of this is ours. This church isn't ours. Like, how do we use this for your kingdom, for your glory? And, I think as a church, as a collective people, we want to be generous. We want to be generous to our community. We want to be generous to the nations. And I think, if we just took the perspective of if everyone just did their part, not even did like extra and above, if everyone just did their part, like, what would be possible? It would be amazing, right? And I think our New Hope for the Future team that they did some giving testimonies the past few weeks, and that was a theme of all of them. And these are people who are church members who are just saying, "Hey, they're
normal people. They're not normal freaks like us."
That's right.
They're not freaks,
and
like pastors.
They're just like saying, "Hey, what would be possible?" Well, I think we'd reach our goals. Our goal to be to give more towards missions and ministries, to be giving 50% to that. That would be achievable. And I think what happens is when we start asking questions like that, what we're saying is, I want to be in control of everything. And none of us really is in control of everything.
Yeah, I think ultimately, if I were talking to an individual and I'm trying to remove myself from it, and I have been able to do that many times because I'm talking to someone who doesn't go to our church, it's about you and your heart before the Lord. And, ultimately, I think you settle that and you start giving consistently, sacrificially to the Lord through the local church. And then once you've got that in place, you're able to see clearly about how the church should be spending money and to speak into that. And so I do think, it really has to start right there. My vision, it's not probably ever going to happen, but, whenever they're taking up funds for the tabernacle in the Old Testament, Moses tells them to give what they're decided to give in their heart, which is kind of where Paul's talking from in 2 Corinthians 9 as well. And they give so much that Moses, or I can't remember if it's Moses or Aaron, and them, they're like, hey, actually, can you guys stop giving because we don't know what to do with all that you're giving? And I'm like, wouldn't that just be so amazing? Not because I want to do all these cool things, just if the generosity of people was so much that we're like, wow, we really don't know what to do with all this.
Yeah.
Man, look at the hearts of people, So
anyway, if generosity was just a reflex, I think that's where we want to be as Christians. It shouldn't be. I think there's times when we're faced with opportunities to give, and we do. Maybe we don't know right away if we should or should not, and so we pray, and the Lord does through the Holy Spirit give us wisdom or give us discernment about whether to give or not, or how much to give. But wouldn't it be awesome if our reflex was and also we do the practical things of getting ourselves financially into a position where we are able to do that,
Getting a little boggy, I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I said I don't think I said it all 3 sermons, but I was talking about how sometimes I wish that I could just do something else for a living and still preach, and really the reason why is so that when I have this conversation, people wouldn't second guess my intentions, because I don't want anything from somebody. I want something for them. And, but I think there's just a natural narrative to think otherwise. And so like, and I would just say ultimately, God clearly doesn't need anything from you. He wants something for you. And so that's why he invites you to this. I don't really have anything else to say. Let me rephrase that. I have a gazillion other things to say that, but I think I've wrapped it up. You want to close this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting it right on in that, as a pastor specifically, it does. There's times that you just feel a little awkward, but not because you're not confident in what you believe in this, it's particularly with money, but it is that like, you're just already thinking the objections.
We're a little insecure.
Yeah, it's okay. We're a little insecure. But you're already thinking through the things that people might be thinking, or the objections that you've heard, or people have said, and you're just like, okay, I really I just want you to experience like God's blessing in this, not like that. He is able to meet every need. So, I just would encourage you, if you're not there, just try. Like, I mean, just obey, I guess.
She did what she could, man. Wasn't that powerful?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jesus said that.
Yeah, Jesus said.
He said she did what she could. Like, that's what he praised Mary for.
Do what you can. Absolutely. Well, that, if you've got questions about, stewardship, finances, all those things, let us know. But that actually takes us into
clearly someone has questions.
Two questions that we've actually received is then, so 2 questions. First is this. Should Christians desire to be successful? That's a good question. And I think I'll start because I'll start by saying I think where this is coming from is like Christians are called to we should have a posture of humility, and we should have a posture of putting others before ourselves. And
speaking of posture, yours is way better
because I'm in the sinking chair. If anybody watching has noticed, I have had to adjust this chair about 7 times.
I'm
already.
a good 6'2", but I look 6 foot all the time because of my posture.
So I'm sitting up straight in hopes that somehow I'm like balancing the chair and it won't sink anymore.
You are successfully sitting in that chair.
Thank you. Successfully. So we posture ourselves in humility, putting others before ourselves. So I think that's probably the posture this is coming from, is this place of humility. And so I think there's different kinds of success. If you're thinking of success and like, I want to be successful so that I have power, no. You shouldn't, if you're saying God continues to give me influence and he's making me successful because he's putting me in places of influence.
Like how I'm an influencer with
your Stanley mug, right? Or I don't know, that's not a mug. What do you call this thing? A water tumbler? A water tumbler, not a water tower. I said a water tower.
Anyway.
I have water today too, but it's not quite as big as yours. No, it's not. A little more modest,
I see what you did there.
But I think in this position of, hey, if God is putting you in places where you can be an influence, where you can leverage the gifts and talents he's given you for his kingdom, we should be hard workers.
Yeah.
And, not that every time we work hard, if we work hard all our lives, we're going to be quote unquote successful, but there usually is fruit from hard work. And I think if God's putting you in positions of this, I think where we err is we say, God's just blessing me so I can, and the subtext is this is like, and that's where it stops. Like, he's just blessing me. He's just blessing me. Well, yeah, he is. Why is he doing that? He is blessing you to be a blessing. So steward that well. So it is perfectly fine to desire, like go after it. I mean, not to the sacrifice of your family, not to the sacrifice of relationships, not the sacrifice of integrity or your work and ministry through the church, but go after it. Seek to be fruitful, seek to be successful with the right motive.
Yeah, I mean, that was good. I don't know that I have a lot to add to that in terms of teaching. I would just say some things that, has worked out in my heart because I am naturally, or I learned to be driven.
Yeah.
And really a lot of my sanctification over the last 15 to 20 years in my pursuit of Christ has been just God kind of So I think I may have said this before on Boggy Talk. I'm not sure, but basically when I became a pastor, I wanted to succeed, and I don't know what that all means, but
so you could retweet your own quotes,
retweet my own pictures.
Right.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But then the Lord kind of broke me and humbled me, and I almost leaned away from anything about myself that was driven. And I think the Lord slowly built me back up and said, hey, some of these things I made in you to be like this. I think that I have the goal of of being content but never complacent. So like just really content in whatever the Lord would bring about for me, but also never complacent with like things not working or things not going well. And something I always say, I think we said this last Boggy Talk, is numbers start a conversation, they don't end the conversation.
And I misquoted it last.
Yeah, but you corrected yourself,
right.
So you wanted to be successful.
That's
there.
right.
So I think like evaluating, but also like not tying our worth to whether our bank account's going higher or whatever it may be. I think that's an important thing. But yeah, I mean, we should want to do everything we do with all our heart to the glory of God. Colossians 3:23. Yeah. But then 24 says, knowing it's from him we receive the reward.
Right.
I think that's the key. What is the reward we're looking for? Like, if you're a great athlete, go for it. Mm-hmm. But is the reward the money and the accolades that come with athleticism, or using whatever that brings to point people to Christ? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a great leader, like, use that to influence others, but are you looking for the fame or are you looking for the reward? I think ultimately we have to continually check our hearts, especially as driven types, and ask, what is the reward I'm seeking?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Be successful.
I mean, I think of successful people that I know who are Christians, and I think many of them, and I can think of many examples of how they leverage that for the kingdom and to serve others. They view it themselves as stewards of what God's blessed them with. And so they seek, they don't just serve, like they actually seek out opportunities to use that. And I would say, how are you doing that?
That would be a good question for you. Like, how are you serving where you're not in charge and you're not getting recognized? Because like, we're Christ-like when we're doing that. And there's some things in my life that I serve just because, you know what? This is good for my soul. Yeah. And I think because we're in positions where we typically, we often get recognized, we're in front of people every week. So like, I want to serve in some ways that I'm not getting recognized. And then, I think also always putting the spotlight on other people is really good, because really that's what Christ, who deserves the spotlight on him, did by, dying for us. So anyway.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think if you got need more clarity on that, feel free to follow it up with another question. So let's ask this next question, which ties back to what we were talking about earlier with money. Should pastors be paid?
Yes, a lot. Thank you. End of conversation.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Should we bring Christy Ross and Christy Wyatt on here to answer those questions?
Oh man, we were actually talking about our budget this morning as we were going over. It's like, so this our power bill was this much this week, or this month. So
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So I mean, there is biblical precedent, I think, for those who.
I can't believe that $1 million signing bonus we gave you you've used it all already. Dude, that is a joke. That is a joke.
Don't take it out of context.
Yes, this isn't Hillsong.
Oh man, I think. That what you just said is a reason that people ask that question, because what is seen often is there are many pastors and influencers, Christian celebrities who do live lavish lifestyles. And so then you could fight back and say, okay, well, what about pastors in countries where they don't have as much? And I understand, and you define lavish. I mean, you should.
It gets boggy.
It does. And, it comes back to, we are called to be stewards for our family, like the monies we receive, and be faithful with that. But also as shepherds of the church, like to be examples of how we do that. And no matter what we do, like I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to think like that was too much or they shouldn't have spent. But honestly, I'm like, you can't live.
I was just talking about this with a church member the other day, just because our budget process is happening and there's things happening which I don't make decisions about, but and I purposely stayed away from a couple conversations just because I'm like, you know what, I don't even want there to be the accusation that I said anything about that. But we're saying, like, if people find out like what a pastor makes, it's like there'll be people who are like, I can't believe it, he shouldn't be making anywhere near that, and there'll be people who'll be like, they deserve so much more. It's just like all over the place. Yeah. I would just say that the Bible does certainly instruct the church to take care of those who labor, especially in preaching and teaching. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. You are a teacher, Justin. Right. So, and then Paul even talks about, he makes tents, but he's also hoping he doesn't have to, so that he can do the thing that God's called him to do. So certainly the Bible shows us as this model. I think as a member of a church, any church, you should hope that your pastoral staff, and so you shouldn't take on too many pastors if you can't afford it, is making at least about what the average family is making in your area. You know what I mean? Like around that. And that slides based on age and experience and all that. I do think that where it gets a little complicated, a little boggy, and that's when you need councils and groups making these decisions and leaning on expert advice from outside is like, the church is bigger and there's a lot of responsibility, there's job demands and all those things. And so it just gets a little complicated there because we think about, so I don't make our personnel decisions, really any of them, but I'm heavily involved in them. We think about, for our staff, like, hey, if this person left because, wherever, how much would Bayshore, you know what I mean? Like, what would it cost to replace them? And, what do they bring to the table that helps us? And there's people, I would just say, if you don't like getting involved in those conversations, then don't. But if you do, then do.
Yeah, you can be
at our church. We're always looking for personnel team members and stewardship team members. So, if you really want to be engaged in those, please do. But if not, then just trust in those groups of people. But I would be wary of churches where there isn't like lay leadership involved in those decisions.
Right, and there's not yet because there's a level of accountability both on both ends, so that staff aren't on one end taken advantage of,
right,
and then two, that staff aren't taking advantage of the church, because both of those can very easily happen. And I've seen both and don't want to be in either situation. And I think that is exactly right. Like, lay leadership in this is key.
Yeah.
Those who are gifted in this area. So I think,
I would just say our church is very transparent about this kind of information. And so I think that's good practice. I understand why some churches, exercise a little more discretion, but ultimately I feel like if the information's valid and transparent, then you're in a good shape.
Yeah. And, I think you can mostly, especially like in our community and in our size church, like you can't always tell, but you get a pretty good idea if like there's just lavishness going on, where you could hide behind some of that in a larger city. Staff can hide behind, a little bit more anonymity, But I mean,
like when Michael Van Zant brought out a 5th color polo into his circulation, we were like, oh man, I don't know how he'll think about that joke, but I hope it stays.
It's really funny.
The people who know Michael just busted if they were drinking something in their car,
and he will laugh. Michael will laugh when he hears it too.
All right, should we transition to the game?
I think so. Okay. Let's game it up, buddy.
All right, so thinking about what we were talking about, I decided to play basically a version of The Price is Right.
Oh, I love that game. Game show, I should say.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you something that is Christianese, if you want to use that.
Okay.
And you're going to tell me what you think it cost, and I'll tell you if you want. I'll tell you the price. But
it's price. I thought we were going to play Plinko or something.
But I'm not that. I didn't have that much time. But if you go, here's the goal. There's 10, so you have to go. You have to stay under in at least 6. But you can't be like
highest retail price without going over.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what they say on The Price is Right.
So what actually prompted this is I saw that the Gaithers are having one of their famous cruises again.
Oh wow!
First post-COVID cruise. It's
market.
The Gaither Homecoming Alaska cruise.
Woo!
It's 7 nights. What is the cheapest for one person to go on this Gaither Homecoming Alaska cruise for the week?
Okay, so I'm trying to get as close to the mark without going over.
Yeah.
And this is not what I would pay.
Well, that would be like $9.
Okay, for one person. So I don't know cruise prices really well. 7 nights. Okay, it's Alaska. So that I'm going to say $11.99.
You went higher than I would have thought, but you are still much under $16.98.
What?
$1,698. You could go on a Alaska cruise for a week for like $400 or $500. That's in like you're basically sleeping with a staff.
Yeah, like aren't cruises way cheaper than that? Like, can you just go on a cruise?
But Guy Penrod isn't on them.
Download some Gaither music and listen
Michael
to
Phelps
it.
isn't on them, right? Michael Phelps.
David Phelps.
David Phelps.
Now, that dude can sing, but I honestly just listen.
He can sing.
Just listen to them and then give that extra $1,000 away.
Okay,
there you go.
Here's Here, that's true. Wait, so it cost $698 to buy their album? You said listen to
No,
them.
I mean, you can still go on a cruise.
Oh, I got it. Yes,
you can still go on a cruise.
You're right. Go on a cruise and just blast
and just
Gaithers everywhere you go.
Take a Bluetooth speaker by the pool.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm trying to make sure you're not cheating here.
I'm not.
All right. So this is a little more spiritual.
Ooh.
The cheapest stone from Jerusalem on eBay right now is going for what price?
They sell.
Yes.
Like, how do you
actually might be from some dude in North Georgia's backyard.
I'm sure it is. I'm just
it says it's a stone from Jerusalem.
And how do you know it's like?
And why do you want to buy that? But anyway, go for it.
And how do you not know it's just like from a building they demoed like
that's
last week?
That's true.
A stone. How big's the stone? It's just a rock?
Yeah, it's like pink. It's like this, like tiny, like
$25.
No, $6.75.
Oh, okay. Whew.
You overestimated.
Well, I would never buy that. So I just kind of figured something from Jerusalem is going to be a lot. And shipping would be that much.
They're still selling Modest is Hottest t-shirts.
No, stop making those.
What's the retail price of the typical Modest is Hottest t-shirt?
Man, it's got to be some store that's just, hopefully they're just selling it to be retroly bad.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I'm going to say it's probably current, like I'm going to go with $14.95.
Dude. Man, you underestimate post-COVID prices. It's $19.99.
That was my first thought, but I thought it can't be that much.
Yeah,
I am bad with post-COVID prices because I'm at that age of like I go to the store, I'm like, I remember when this. I'm already there.
Speaking of retro, how much would it cost for you to get your hands?
No, you can't even say it.
Your hands on a 6-pack of Evangel cubes.
They're not.
Can you explain what an Evangel cube is?
Oh man, Evangel cube is like so. I mean, I think now cross-culturally it might be a decent way, but it's basically a cube that it's like a transformer. It just keeps unfolding and you use it to tell the gospel story and it has pictures every way you unfold it. And you just
there was also the giant one. Did you ever see the giant ones?
Yes. Yeah. Oh man. So a 6-pack.
You think the deconstruction movement just like smashed all the Evangel cubes? That's why they're a little pricey.
So
6-pack of those tiny cubes.
6-pack. So this is the value pack. So there's got to be a little discount.
It is.
It's cheaper than just buying one.
Yeah.
So if they were, I'm gonna go with $49.99.
Man, only $34.99.
I'm over.
Yeah.
Okay, I overestimated the value. I just was like, man, they're
okay. We're gonna get into a little bit of prosperity gospel stuff here. Okay, so the 700 Club has what's called the Founders Club.
Oh no!
And that's the level of, and they even call it tithing, which is just blasphemy.
That's not the
but maybe blasphemy strong, but bad is better. They have the Founders Club. To be a member of the Founders Club, you have to give at least this amount of money per year.
Dude, well, I know 700 Club isn't playing around with their money. I mean, they kind of, with the money they're asking people to give, I should say.
Yeah.
The amounts of money. So Founders Club, that sounds like top level. Like that sounds like you're in the ground floor. So I'm thinking it's a top tier level. I'm going to go with $10,000.
Woo, man, that might have been what it was before Pat Robertson lost his mind, but now it's only $5,000 a year.
Oh, okay. Well,
there's a story on their website that says from floundering to founder.
Oh, come on.
And really, that's like the win.
That
for this
should be
woman who started giving to the 700 Club, and the Lord worked miracles in her life.
Man, is that all it takes?
That's all it takes. Okay.
Speaking of doing well here.
How much did it cost for Lakewood Church to move into the Compact Center? Renovation and purchase price and all. And this is, remember, about 15 years ago or so, 20 years ago.
I feel like I used to know this, but I don't remember. So I'm going with $10 million.
So they purchased it. Well, they first started with a lease for $11 million, and then they ended up buying it for another $7 million, and they spent $100 million renovating it.
Oh my gosh.
So $119.3 million about 20 years ago is how much Lakewood Church
wow. I was way off. $119 million.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, can you just imagine all
which, I mean, isn't that bad for, a former basketball arena?
I'm just like, what the pressure? See, okay, this takes us back several conferences. I mean, that's just the pressure to perform because you got to fill those seats to pay those bills, and you got to constantly up the game. Man,
But if you have the smile that Joel Osteen has.
I don't have that smile because my lips aren't big enough.
I know. Okay. All right. So there's a conference in Chicago called the Life Surge. It's a one-day conference, just from 8:00 in the morning until 5:00 in the afternoon. You can go there for, not that much, $99, or you can get the ultimate experience at this Christian conference, which means you get the best seats, the digital program booklet, free parking, a keepsake wristband, Chick-fil-A lunch, the VIP lounge access where you get to meet and have photos with Tim Tebow, Willie Robertson, Priscilla Shire, and Nick, however you say his last name, the guy with no arms. That didn't sound mean, but you know what I'm talking about. So insensitive.
I know you're talking about.
You network and have coffee from 7 to 8. You have a VIP after party with the speakers. You get a lanyard, and you get a Willie Robertson duck call that has been signed.
So funny story. I have a Willie Robertson duck call that's been signed.
Oh man,
because he was a guest at the Rocky Bayou Christian School Gala they did, and so someone gave us the access to that, and I'm saving it.
Yeah,
to my brother for Christmas because he will never listen.
He doesn't listen.
He doesn't.
How much does that cost, man?
That is crazy. So $90 for that one day. That's got to be. All that stuff. $499.
$998.
No, you're kidding me. I almost said that, but I thought there's no way.
Yeah. Think about this Christian concert and people are like paying $1,000 to be this VIP. Anyway, what do you think Jesus would do?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that in mind.
He'd be like, it's free, y'all.
Now with that in mind.
Okay.
You can go to an Elevation Church concert, even though worship, whatever you want to call it. But if you want to have premium seats and have a VIP meet and greet with Stephen Furtick, how much does that cost? This is like coming up next month.
No, so the tickets are probably way more than they should be. I'm sure so music's fine. Music's good. Concert, all that's. I'm also like, why would you want to do that?
Right,
why would you? $399.
$648.
Could you imagine someone paying money to meet you, yet alone $699?
$648. No,
sorry, $648. That's a discount.
Also, I meant to tell you the ultimate experience for Life Surge is 40% off now. So if you're still thinking about going. Okay, I got two more and we're done.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, you're not doing well. So.
I am tanking. This is because I'm so cheap.
John Hagee, famous author. In one of his books, actually there's two, but in one of his books, but two of them actually, he said things that didn't come true. How much can you get that book for?
It should be free.
It's still for sale.
$25.
$3.59.
So it's on eBay.
No, it's on some used bookstore.
Oh man!
All right, this is what book cost more? I Kissed Dating Goodbye, or I Kissed Dating Goodbye.
So I Kissed Dating Goodbye should be out of print by now, and it should be. So I'm going to go with that one. It's got to be more expensive because it's not in print anymore, I hope. Is that true?
Incorrect.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, I think I got...
Because Josh, whatever his name is, still got to make money on his new books.
That's right. I kind of like misheard. I was thinking it was somebody's rebuttal, but it's him.
It's him writing his own book about how
he's got to make money.
Or I Survived. It's called I Survived.
There you go.
I should have
All right, that's what. Yeah, man.
Well, you survived this Boggy Talk in this game.
That just shows you. I'm so out of touch with how much things cost because I'm just like, don't buy a ton. Frugal.
And it's just silly.
And like, why would you?
And okay, last thought. There are people who don't tithe to the local church that spend money on these kind of things and are like, can't trust a church.
That's right. You can trust that guy.
You're hanging out with Furtick behind
That being said, if you want a Boggy Talk meet and greet,
yes,
it happens every Sunday morning for free.
Yes,
Just come and worship.
Yes.
We will not sign anything because it's not.
I won't.
If we sign anything, it's not worth anything because Jesus
Actually,
is
the value goes down when I sign it.
That's right. So,
thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for
and
tuning
gals.
in. If you've got questions for us to answer, please send them. We do enjoy just asking things that people are thinking. So that helps us out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.